Okay, afternoon everyone, and welcome to the next in the Essex Cricket webinars. Today's one's around coach development and looking at practical ways that our coaches can be active within our groups at the moment. We're kindly joined by Ben Wallace from Cambridgeshire Cricket, who's going to talk through the coach development pathway. And we've got Scott Simmons from Upminster Cricket Club and Newvic College, who's been doing some work around virtual coaching, and he'll talk through his experience there. As with the other webinars, we've also got Arthur Akram. He's on the chat box, so if you've got any questions, please put them in there. Again, we'll answer 2 or 3 towards the end, depending on time, and any others we'll follow up with replies on the website or individually if you need more individual information for yourself. So, first of all, just like to thank Ben again for taking the time to put this together, and I'll pass over to Ben to start. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Dan. Morning, everyone. Well, afternoon, I think it is now. We're just going to take you through the first bit, just an update on what the new coach development education pathway looks like, and the current situation in terms of courses. Just have a little bit around the new ECB foundation stages, and a little bit of update from Icoach Cricket, which has been developed over this current period, and has lots of new bits of information and different series on there. And then I'll pass over to Scott to take over. So just moving on to the first bit, obviously earlier this year, the coach education pathway changed from the previous one that was implemented in 2013 to this new circular diagram, which is on the screen in front of you. ECB support coach, which will be a replacement for the coach support worker, which is part online and then a face-to-face module. That is currently in development and should be available shortly, but that will be due to the guidelines in terms of group training and when we're allowed to get back to that. So that is the first one that's been done. ECB Foundation 1 coach, which is out there, but obviously currently suspended due to the government guidelines. ECB Foundation 2, the ECB Advanced coach, ECB Specialist coach, and then there's a new one at the top there, which is the ECB International coach. I'm just going to click on and show you where they align to the existing course equivalents. So you can just see that on the screen there. The ECB support coach, as I mentioned, is aligned to the coach support worker course. The ECB Foundation 1 bridges the gap between the old or existing coach ed content, whereas the starting point was UKCC level 2. The entry phase now is the ECB Foundation 1 coach. Foundation 2 coach will be the equivalent of the UKCC level 2 coaching children's cricket or young person adults cricket as it's known. Moving down the list, specialist coach in line with the level 3 performance coach. Advanced coach, the UKCC4 master coach, and right at the bottom there, the international coach, which is a new award as I mentioned earlier. Just to reaffirm, the current position on all the courses at the moment is that they're all postponed in line with the government and ECB guidance. So group coaching cannot take place at present, and obviously even under the guidance that was issued on Friday around net practices, obviously group coaching is still suspended and cannot take place in that environment either. Anyone who is on a course or is due to take an assessment, these will recommence once it is safe to do so. I've just got some updates from a call that we were on this morning, so this is hot off the press. The ECB Foundation 2 coach was in development, and the development on that has currently been paused. So due to the situation that we find ourselves in at the moment, and that will now become available from this time next year. So it was due to be rolled out as of October. That will now take place next year, around about this time, subject to guidelines allowing us to return to group training, group coaching, etc. The current Foundation 1 courses will be available to run once we're allowed to go back to delivering, and obviously some of those need to be finished off as well, potentially. So I'm just going to move on now quickly to the Foundation 1 coach course, and as we mentioned earlier in the call, this is now the entry level for on the coach education pathway. So just a little bit about the program outcomes listed there on the screen, and to emphasize that an ECB Foundation 1 coach will be qualified to lead coaching sessions independently and without supervision. This used to be under the old framework where it would be a level 2 coach. Under the new coaching pathway, anyone who is found competent on this course will be allowed to lead coaching sessions independently without supervision. Just a little bit on the content, as you can see on the screen there, what the role is. You cut in the course, you cover the role, what coaching looks like, an introduction to Icoach Cricket, cover all concepts of the game in terms of fielding, batting, bowling, looking at the foundation principles of those skills, and then moving on to what kind of coaching tools you're able to use, and some guidance and some support around making your sessions active, purposeful, safe and enjoyable, and some covering of differentiation in terms of ability, age, etc. I'm not going to read through the last bits, but obviously they're listed on the screen there for who's it for, who's it aimed at, and what your commitment is. Obviously, it is a 2-day course with 7 bite-sized e-learning modules to take place off course. So you are, rather than 4 days as the existing level 2 was, you are down to 2 days of face-to-face modules, and then the 7 bite-sized learning e-modules around that. Just on the screen there, a little bit of a example of what the course entails. You can see there in blue that the module 1, 2, 3 and 4 are online modules which need to be completed prior to you attending the first day of your course. Modules 5 and 6 are the practical face-to-face modules on day 1. You then go off course again to modules 7, 8 and 9, and then return for modules 10 and 11 on course. And this is where you'll be continually assessed throughout the course. And there's 5 opportunities to coach on the course, and you're assessed over the course of the 2 days. In terms of accessing courses and where they are at, obviously I've listed, due to this being open to the region, I've listed where courses can be located from. So they're mainly accessed via the county board websites. I've listed all the links there for the relevant counties, and also the link to the ECB coaching course page, where all of the activities can be found when they are ready. Obviously, as mentioned previously, all the courses are postponed at the moment and will be until further notice. Just going to move on to Icoach Cricket. Icoach Cricket is where the all of the content for the coach education courses is now stored, and is available to download via an app on an Android or Apple device, or via your PC, desktop, Mac. It's your first opportunity to join the coaching family. Obviously, you can create an account, and it's open to anyone, even if you're not qualified. But it has different levels on it, determined on what you get open access to different parts of Icoach, dependent on the qualification that you get. There's a new series that has been developed on the coach on Icoach Cricket with the Cricket at Home series. Obviously, it's been launched in line with the current predicament that we find ourselves in. Was launched, I think, towards the end of middle of March, and as of the 24th of March, it had over 5,000 hits already. So lots of good activities and ideas on there that you can do at home or take into your club coaching environment when it is safe to do so. So if anybody hasn't got that app already, please feel free to go download it and take a look at it in your own time. Obviously, it's free, and simply just download it from Google Play or from the Apple Store or online via icoachcricket.ecb.co.uk, and then you can have a look at it and see what the content is and use it for yourselves. That's the end of that part. I've got some contacts to go back to later about the coaches associations in the individual counties. But just before we go on to that, the next part of this webinar is an example of the virtual coaching that's been taking place at clubs across the counties. And just going to hand back to Dan, I think, who's going to introduce Scott and take you through the examples of what's been going on out there in the network.
Thank you, Ben. That's really useful. Again, we've seen there's plenty of questions come through onto the chat box, which we'll answer at the end. And thanks to Arfan and Graham, who's also been responding to some of those questions as they've come through. Really would recommend people having a look at iCoach. And if, in terms of now that Foundation 1 is available, getting people who you think in your club might be interested in getting onto that course once they resume or through the winter to have a look at iCoach as soon as possible. And also, people who aren't coaches can access the app as well, just to give them some, like Ben says, some back garden games or little activities that they can do in the parks with their families, following the social guidance that's come out recently as well. So I would recommend you sharing that around to as many people as possible to have a look at it. All of the All-Stars activities are on there as well. So again, it's a great little resource that can just sort of help you with your club members or your coaches to start building up ideas or to look at ways forward. And following on from that comes this next section with Scott, who's been working with Upminster Cricket Club around their virtual coaching. And we just thought it'd be a really useful thing just to say when your coaches are coming to you, and obviously there's ideas coming about around how you can activate your members or get your coaches just to be really creative around the environments they're working in, which is a great way for their own personal development as well. So passing over to Scott now just to go through his experiences of running virtual coaching.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Ben, as well. Really useful. There's some really good questions in there that I'm sure a lot of people were wondering what's happening in this weird times that we're in. So I think that's a really good lead on from what Dan was saying. Looking at planning is key for our virtual coaching. You've got your All-Stars, like we're talking about, and Icoach Cricket is superb. For me, personally, looking at what's happening when we first having a chat at Upminster, obviously there's loads of questions going on about how are we going to do this. You know, that's the big question, the dooming question about how are we going to manage coaching in a back garden or indoors or wherever it may be. And I think the key for me going forward and trying to make the best of what we've got here is planning. I've spent a lot of time, a lot of hours in the day going through Instagram, going through internet, chatting to friends all over the country and actually in different parts of the world. To see how they are doing things, and that has helped me massively in regards to sort of what I can do and sort of and how I can do it, and it's really helped. So that's for me personally is really sort of planning, and I just wanted to go over some planning stuff here, looking at the virtual coaching, because you've all probably, some of you have done a little bit of coaching maybe over online. Some of us haven't started at Upminster. This is our 4th week. We started 4 weeks ago with a week in advance. And sort of worried about what we're going to do. I think what we wanted to do was continue how we were doing it outside with age groups. So we split our groups up into our age groups, and that's helped massively with numbers, because obviously having 30 in a Zoom room is obviously very difficult. So they're the sort of things that you need to be thinking about. So we've done all our sessions over Zoom, looking at 30-minute sessions. Obviously you're allowed 40 minutes, it's free of charge. So definitely use up the 40 minutes because it allows you for waiting for people to come in. Obviously, a little chat at the end. You don't have to rush. So telling the parents and the kids that they're 30-minute sessions, and then you can play between the 10 minutes that's left. I think what happened a couple of weeks ago, I think Phil was online, Dan can probably confirm, but looking at making sure we change our passwords every 4 weeks and how we send those passwords out. Obviously, the safeguarding issues are a real sort of concern and a must for us coaches that we need to adhere to. So please make sure, if you haven't seen that seminar, make sure you listen to that one. That's a really good webinar. Really help you understanding what the needs are for virtual coaching. The other things for planning is also try and get those team managers involved. You can see it on there. With the amount of coaching you're probably doing, there's a lot of work going on for you as a coach, planning, etc., making sure that you're doing what you need to do. So try and get the team managers involved and sending out the information to your players. And I'll come on to that in a minute, but send out the information beforehand, like a day before, if not the morning of, and just give them an opportunity to get what they need, which is a key thing. And also you can then get messages back if they haven't got the equipment. That gives you a bit of time to adapt and change your plans. And that's where you really need as a coach is always being able to adapt. I think that's, all of you that do coach and all of us that have coached, you can rock up to a place and you haven't got any equipment, or the storage is locked, or you're going to a school and all the tables are out in the hall, it rains, etc. So I think for me personally, and I think good advice for me would to give you lot, if you're doing some coaching and virtual coaching, is plan well in advance. Normally I write a 10-week plan out. That's how I'd work it for each age group, 10-week plan. And then knowing that I can adapt and change it depending on the weather, depending on the space that I got and the size and the equipment, etc. But I'd always write a 10-week plan out for me personally. But if you can't, then look to do like a 3-4-week plan and maybe improve it on that, which would be really helpful. So just think about every scenario. Think about space you've got, and we'll go through that on the next slide if you want to go through for me, Ben.
Come on, Fleck.
That's all right. Carry on. You having a cup of tea?
No, there you go.
Thanks, mate. So looking at your session plans, looking at how you run a virtual session, I don't want to tell you how to suck eggs, that's for sure, but just going through and being sure what we're doing is obviously a very, a key part. So thinking about a normal session, that's how I've thought about all my sessions that I've been doing and how we're going forward. Obviously your normal intro, you've got the safety side of it, making sure that there's windows, fences, plant pots, barbecues, everything that could possibly be in a way in a garden or wherever they are in house, photo frames, the lot is all needs to be thought about. Looking at a warm-up, just a normal warm-up related to the skill, and then the skill itself. And I think what really helps, if you haven't thought about this before, is doing your demo yourself is key. So we always do our demos, but you can also do a lot of video sharing like we are now. You can get videos up of Icoach, which is really, really key, and also other videos that you might have done yourself, and you can actually use them and screen share them. They're really, really helpful. I've done a lot of stuff on actually when you're looking at videos of batting, bowling, and actually watching as just like in England. I think when England scored their world record score, we're watching that about how to power hit and bat and score runs, and we were just watching a bit of that on there and just seeing how they do it and what they did. Then obviously take time to reflect, ask your questions, use the chat box is really, really key, like we are now. Getting them to interact in that chat box is fantastic. So some of them who don't know the answers, they can then look at some of the answers that have come out, and then they can hopefully then obviously learn, and they can carry on learning really, which is really good. Go out and do your skill again, adapt it, change it, progress it, whatever needs to be done. So you're looking at a fixed drill. You might be really looking at a fixed drill, one-handed top-hand bat shot, sort of straight drive. You could then be going into one-handed top-hand shot, going mid-on, mid-off, and that's your progression. Looking at how you do it. Competition again, adding your points. Time thing. You can put a time limit on stuff like that. Kids love that, and also just as an element of competition, which changes how they play their shot. As soon as you've got a competition in the game, their technique goes out the window. So we all know that. So making sure we test them under pressure. And then obviously, I think a key thing for me, what I think the kids have really enjoyed, is a little bit of homework. So the stuff you do during that session, let them go off and practice that. So maybe give them another drill to do that they can work on during that week that you're not with them. And they can go in the garden, get their parents to help them out, and they can really have something to practice on, which is really good. Thanks, Ben. So we go through this in every what should I say? Every coaching session we do. We go through STEP. Again, this is no different for me personally. This is sort of something I live and die by, really, to be fair. And this will really sort of help out your coaching and your planning. So obviously we've got STEP. We know that we've got space, task, equipment, players. Looking at what space we've got, you know the different areas you're in. I'm quite lucky where we are at Upminster. We have a lot of garden, quite a bit of space. Where if I was at Newvic, which I do a couple of bits for now, we don't have any space. They're probably in their house or their back garden is very small, or they're sharing their gardens with other people as well. So those are things we need to be thinking about. Your task is obviously looking at your skill, so batting, bowling, fielding, keeping, but then thinking about your core principles as well. Remember those core principles, or sorry, they're slightly changed, haven't they, on the foundation level 1, your foundation principles. Thinking about 1 or 2 max, working on 1 or 2 things at a time that they need to work on. Balance, rhythm, full face of the bat. All these things are still key in our coaching, even online. Those core principles are key. Equipment, for me, minimal. If you can keep it minimal, don't need much. Get some garden toys as targets. Use the goal they've already got in their house that they're using in the back garden. Some trainers. They just need a bat, a tennis ball. Using a tee, I've seen some of the kids have chopped off the top of the bottle and used that as a tee. Toilet roll, an empty toilet roll is really good for a tee as well. So there's ways around that. They don't need all that sort of equipment and loads of it. If they've got a bat and a tennis ball, we can pretty much do anything we need. And then obviously you've got your players. And depending on where you are and what group you're in, where we are at Upminster, obviously we're very lucky. We split all our age groups up for each year group. But even then, there's still a lot of different abilities in those age groups. So thinking about what ability. So making sure when we plan our sessions, you've got plenty of content. Okay, I'll tell you this to everyone I tutor or mentor when they're going through their coaching pathway, is in your session plans, have plenty of content. So have the basic stuff that you need to work on. You've got your basic, and then work it through up to the more advanced, and making sure you've got plenty of content. If those kids are struggling slightly on the basic area, that's fine. That's not a problem. Work with them, keep working on that. And then obviously those who have succeeded on their drill, move them up and progress them. So no one's getting bored. That's so key. And having plenty of content. Hopefully we know that, but it's just nice to be reminded of. Thanks, Ben. So remember, STEP, key. Just some tips, really, just to finish off. Like for me personally, like I said before, I spent a lot of time before we started our virtual coaching, going through, chatting to people, talking to people, just wanting to do things right, and also put my own stamp on it, which was key for me being a coach. Obviously, is put my own stamp on it and make it my own. But also, help other people, communicating with our coaches is really, really important, and understanding how they do things, why they do it, and learning off others. So don't be scared of asking questions. If you need any help, have a chat with another coach, see what they're doing, how can they do it, or just ask for some ideas. So please make sure that's done, especially if you're not the coach yourself, or you're going to get a coach to do this, and to do some planning involved and have a chat to some people. Always be early for session. I found that I'm always early, making sure you're ready. Like Dan was here, allowing people into the room. Always be early is really key, and be prepared and organised. Like we're talking about planning. Make sure you know what you're doing. You've got all your kit ready. Your garden's tidy. I have to tidy my garden because my young son just completely mucks it up every single day. So it comes 4:45, I have to clear it all out, all the tennis balls away, and get it all ready. Like we're talking about, adapt during the session. It will get you thinking. It will make you think on your feet. So please be ready for that. Obviously that comes in your planning, but not always going to happen. And differentiate. Like we spoke about, Ben spoke about that in that module 1 in our level 1 foundation 1 course. Differentiation is key for all of us, and we're all different learners. We all learn in different ways. We all learn at different speeds. Another one, which we took about a week to get used to, is their players' names. So you can see all of us have got our names on. You probably know how to use Zoom really well because we've been on it probably every day doing quizzes and family meets and whatever else. Get the kids to put their names on the box as well. Really good for your communication, for you to coach or your coach to coach, and you can then communicate, call their name, and you can actually have a conversation while everyone else is having their session. You can actually have a conversation. It's really improved. That's one thing I've definitely improved on over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Like we were just talking about, making sure you coach. That's what you're there to do, and you can still coach online. There's no different. Talk about demo before, really good. Kids love demos, love visual learning, and sometimes they might need a demo again. So if they do need it, call them back in if they need help and go over it again. Spend that time with them doing that, and they will really appreciate and learn. And we spoke about the chat box. Really, definitely use the chat box. Great to get them engaged. Last page for me, Ben. Thank you very much. Hopefully some of these tips are sort of, some of you might know, others you might not have thought about. They're just some things that have really helped me over the last few weeks. Parents are great. If you can get parents on board in your session, especially with the younger ones, honestly, it really does makes a difference on the session. The parents really enjoy being out in the garden with their kids, especially on a nice sunny day. You know, the kids are having fun, the celebrations, the high fives, you know, they've got a wicket or they hit it through the gap, you know, or they had a good catch, so they hit the stumps, you know, and then get a bit of competition between the parents and the child. That's fantastic to watch. On the other side of the screen, like we are now, watching that happen is great, and really sort of make sure the parents know that their help is, you know, really not so much needed, but, you know, makes a big difference, and it's really worth doing. The joy of this, we talk about all the time, is lots of goes, less standing around, less queues. You know, this is one thing we're really trying to be working on the last few years, is getting that across. I know it's very hard sometimes when you've got 24, 30 kids in a session, 1 or 2 coaches, you're in a little sports hall. But this, we've got one child on their own in their garden. Let's get them having lots of goes. Let's get them hitting balls, catching balls, throwing balls, you know, bowling balls. That's, for me, just get that. Less talking, probably the most talking I've done in a while, to be fair. Less talking and lots of action. And you will see the rewards, and the improvements will definitely happen. And just keep it simple. First, most important, just want to finish on, for me, you know, I've really enjoyed virtual coaching. I think it's going to change coaching going forward massively. Definitely things are changing all over the world with this happening. And I can see this happening with coaching as well. Most important thing is having fun. You know, that's what we're here to do. Have fun. These kids are on their own. They haven't seen their friends in weeks and weeks. And the only contact they have is maybe on the computer, you know, wherever it is they're playing, and seeing you once a week or seeing their coach once a week. And they literally, most of them really wait for that day when the coaching happens. So let's just make sure we have lots of fun, enjoy it, and they walk away learning one thing. You know, if they can walk away with a smile on their face, learning one thing, you know they're going to come back next week. And you get them that grip in for when we can get outside. You know, they'll be ready to rock and roll. And, you know, and as a coach, you can't beat kids turning up, wanting to play cricket and wanting to enjoy the session. I think that's all for me. Hopefully that's helped with some bits on there. And like I said, I don't want you to tell you how to suck eggs, you know, whatsoever. I'm sure some of you, you know, have got some planning involved, whatever else. But, you know, it's nice to talk to other people and just sort of understand if there's anything we can do better. And I'm always looking to improve. So hopefully that's helped. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thanks, Scott. That's really helpful. And again, through there. So just pass over to Arfan now if there's any questions that have come up.
Yeah, just quickly before I go on the questions, Phil's done a really good piece with Scott and Ollie at Upminster around safeguarding and good practices on virtual coaching. So those clubs that are interested, there's already an existing sort of set of guidance there to make sure you implement. A few questions. Firstly, thank you so much to Grant Smith. He has answered many of them, but I think it's good to go through those that haven't seen the chat box. Ben, for you, the first one, do the post-level 2 workshops still exist?
I think Graham might have mentioned that, but no, they don't.
Okay, nice and easy. Second one from Kevin, for what Ben just said, going forward, can ECB level 1 run sessions at schools, i.e. chance to shine?
We have asked for clarification on that. We are still waiting for, particularly around Chance to Shine, is for Chance to Shine to come back with their guidance on that. I think it's obviously there's partly down to the school requirement as well, which we're still seeking clarification on. And I think Dan might have gone to AFPE as well, in terms of just discussing what the requirements are and what the guidance is. So we are still waiting for clarification on that. I don't know if Dan wants to add anything else.
No, it's just getting confirmation from the Department of Education and AFPE, which is the Association for Physical Education, to confirm that they're happy for our new course to go in to do level coaching in schools, which we all say if it's a course where at the end of it a candidate is able to take over a group of coaching, then it should make sense to be able to go into the schools. So we just need to make sure it meets the requirement for schools for their Ofsted inspections. So hopefully within the next start of next summer term or stuff like that, we'll be able to use it once the courses have been rolled out for a little bit of a period of time as well, which will help that situation. But we will update you as soon as we know.
Brilliant. Dan, for you, I think this one, it's two questions from two different people, but I think they're more or less the same questions from Dan and Naveed. Afternoon, will people who were booked onto courses be offered places on others first when they can be run again? And Naveed, we have some members currently on the old level 2 course. Will the time limit be extended to allow for completion?
Yep, so those people who are booked on courses, as I think Graham's mentioned, we will obviously work with them around sort of continuation of that course or accessing the next courses that are available to go through. And again, as Ben put up earlier, the contacts are there for each of the counties across the region if you've got any other questions around that point. And obviously we'll work with those candidates, because one thing we'll do is if we've got volunteers who are keen to get through the process or onto the ladder, then we certainly want to help them to make sure they carry on with that motivation. And as I said, that's where Icoach could be really useful for them, because that'll be a key part of their learning. So they can use this time to get used to that and understanding where the activities are. That'll be really good. And all the courses are suspended at the moment. So the level 2s, if they're on a level 2 and going through, we would encourage them, as we have done, is to make sure that they've done their online practices and sessions, and also making sure their paperwork's up to date where it can be. And we will then, as soon as we can, we'll start opening up those courses back up again so they can complete the courses they are currently on. So there will be a slight extension to help them get through that process to go forward. And then the same for the applications for the advanced course, which was the old level 3. They're still online, but also that's suspended as well. But again, there are the opportunity for people now to sort of start applying and get their applications together and ready to go onto that system. And hopefully it's still an interview process, but they'll be able to take that interview to get through to that course as well.
Brilliant. And just a final one, Scott, for you, mate. You were very kind enough to speak around risk assessment and obviously your session plans up to 10 weeks. Just a generic question. Do you have, did you create your own template risk assessment straight session plan? And obviously if clubs are interested, we'd be happy to share the template. I wouldn't quite talk about the context, mainly around coaching indoors, outdoors, being aware of all the safety elements.
Well, that's a question, isn't it? That's a question. Yeah, things are obviously a lot different now. From obviously risk assessment needs to be taken. I mean, this would probably have to go maybe a bit further up the line, really, with regards to that. I mean, I think a lot of the side of regards to the risk assessment is relying on the parents when the coaching's happening, making sure that the area is safe. Obviously, you go through your safety aspects at the start. I mean, Dan can probably jump in a little bit more, but for me personally, the risk assessments is probably more in regards to the safety aspect at the start of it, because we're in, well, I'm in, could be possibly 28 different houses every half hour for an hour and a half. So I could probably see 100 houses a night. So I don't know how I'd do a risk assessment for each of those houses. So if Dan wants to jump in,
yeah, I think
how we can do that better.
A simple template would do it, as long as you've identified where those hazards are and you've put that maybe a set of guidelines out to your parents who are taking part in the session, that they understand they've got to clear the area for the kids to take part in, and they have got identified some risks for them that might be around that they can clear up. And I think as long as you've put together a very simple document which identifies what the potential hazards are, what's the chance of them being implemented or a lot of happening, and then you just put your action. So your action might be the chance of the garden having a lot of stuff. We've highlighted at the start of the webinar or the virtual coaching that the area needs to be cleaned and safe for activities to take place in, and we've reinforced that through the session as you go through those points. So you can make it very simple. I think it's just making sure it highlights those key bits of communication that you will have to give out to your parents and your participants taking part as you go through.
Brilliant. I was going to say final question, but another one sneaked in. Final question, which probably brings us on to Thursday. From Brian, is there any further guidance in doing one-to-one coaching outdoors?
Yeah, so that nicely leads on. On Thursday, we'll be running a webinar which will go over the ECB guidance that's come out in terms of net coaching. The number one guidance is that you must stick to the COVID social distancing measures. Obviously, the virtual coaching is within a household and everything, so that has its that COVID. But if you're starting to think about now your one-to-one coaching, two things. One, you must stick to the government's guidelines around that. So 1 meter, 1 person, social distancing measures, how your equipment is not shared or supported, but also that you have, most importantly from the cricket, that you cover your safe hands procedures as well. And if you've got any concerns around that, then obviously Phil Naffett, our county welfare officer, and the county welfare officers in the other counties will be able to help. But you must, so for that point, if you've got under 18s, you need to have a separate isolation area for parents to be able to see what's going on, and also making sure you have a clear gap between your sessions to enable cleaning to take place and stopping the opportunity for groups to sort of mingle or stick together, so keeping to those government guidelines to go through. But as we said, on the basis of lots of questions that have come in and some clarity, on Thursday at 5 o'clock, we'll be running a webinar around the guidelines, which we have a representative from the ECB on, plus also kindly a club who have gone through the whole process are going to come on and talk through their process, a bit similar to as Scott's done tonight with the virtual coaching. They'll be going through what they've gone and put in place to help encourage their coaching sessions as well.
That's it, Dan.
Okay. Brilliant. So thank you very much again for today, Ben. I don't know if we should go to the last couple of slides.
Yep.
So again, just on the screen again, we've worked again across the region. Contacts on the screen if you need to get hold of anyone from their coaches association through to your county reps as well. I'm more than happy to help on. And again, if you've got individual questions for your sessions, we can help you with that. And then just a reminder for the next webinars that are coming up. Through the popularity of these, we've looking to carry them on now right through to June. And obviously, as we've just mentioned, the guidelines are a big talking point within the game. So we've got that one on Thursday, and then next Tuesday, we've had a number of clubs across the region have been successful in terms of getting grants and money, but we're now putting one on specifically to help clubs in terms of how they write further funding applications and might help them to do some more work around their development plans. And then following that, we'll release the next wave of webinars to come on sort of starting June period. But thank you very much again for your time today. Again, please stay in touch, please stay safe, and we'll look forward to speaking again soon. Thanks very much.